Hello everyone, it's Pebbles and
Will, how you doing?
Will, and we're back at it again. Second video. I think we're gonna leave it like that. So, want to say that we received a lot of responses on Facebook world regarding our first video that we posted about autism, and I had made a commitment to share the things that I have come across that was really helpful. Now, these are based off of my experiences with my son. However, I believe if there's anything that could be beneficial to anyone else, you kind of glean what you can from it and adapt it to your situation, or it may spur more insight, or it may spur more thought into additional research, because you may not have known that there was some type of resources out there that were available for certain areas that you're trying to address. So I think the biggest thing that we looked over and we've been really prayerful and reflected on, and then what we've been seeing in the comments, were there are a lot of parents who have just heartfelt concerns about their children making friends, about their social skills, and the bullying aspect as well that children with autism often face in elementary, middle school, high school, across the board.
Yep, and especially high school in the teen years. And as we kind of have talked about this and sifted through all the resources and all the information that you have, we kind of settled in one area that proved to be very successful for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so we began to institute game night. And, just how we were able to learn through play. We were able to learn about both of our sons, but also Micah, who has autism. And we were able to learn about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
How do we serve him best? What are some skills that we need to pick up? And what are some skills that we want him to adopt?
And it helped us to assess.
Absolutely.
And believe it or not, what I did is I went on an ABA site. And for those of you who don't know what ABA is, it is Analysis Behavior, Applied Behavioral Analysis. So what they do is they take certain behaviors that children with autism or other developmental delay background, they'll take those behaviors that impair their learning, take the behaviors that impair their ability to form friendships, take those behaviors and classify them that impairs their ability to live independently, and they will address those behaviors with interventions, repetitive play, change in thought processes, to help the child to be able to understand what are the expectations for them. And then we find out with children with autism, they're very concrete, very remote. They have to practice things over and over again, become a part of their repertoire, their skill set. And so with the game theory that we have adopted, I actually went on the websites with ABA, like playtherapysupply.com. And what you'll see is, look at our other pictures. We're going to post some of the games and also put in our comment the actual address.
Right.
But I went there and I said, you know what? If the psychologist, the psychiatrist, said it wrong. Psychiatrists.
Psychiatrists.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they're using these games to help children and you're paying them $125 an hour, you're paying them just to get the assessment. You're paying them for the application fee. Well, I can do that as well. So we're going to go into that right now.
So we have 4 different games here that we want to kind of introduce to you.
Mm-hmm.
We've played all of them in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them a number of different times that have helped us kind of get after some of these skills and development that we're looking for. And so, Pebbles, you're going to introduce a couple of the games, and I'll introduce 2. Now, which 2 were your favorite that you want to share?
I think they step up. So
Okay.
For me, what I started off with was the emotional intelligence. I think oftentimes children have problems forming relationships
The box.
because they do not have the ability to identify their feelings, be able to communicate the emotional part of themselves with other kids to make those deeper connections. So this one talks more about empathy, talks about mood management, which children with autism often have a lot of different variations in their mood. Talks about self-motivation, talks about self-awareness, have them become aware more about their body language and how they're communicating with other children, and relationship skills. So there are the questions and cards that you will get, and the ideal is you have a brain. So if you have someone who's scientific or mathematical, child with autism really hone in on this, because competition is the key, reward is the key. So they get these little tokens they put on the different areas once they answer the card, and the cards are more situational kind of setup, and they have to give their response, and it makes you more aware of how they're thinking. And then what you can do is, as a parent, you can help kind of what I want to say, help navigate their responses, help to have them to repeat it over and over again like a script until they feel comfortable with that situation and they know what the correct response is rather than the wrong response.
And to me, it's really learning through experience. You know, we all know once you've been in a situation before, it becomes natural. You know what your responses are. And so this is what the game does. It allows you to have the experience without the effect. You know, you're learning what you should do before you even get into that situation, so that primes the correct response. And that's what we're looking for.
Because you can't create these situations out. You can't follow your child to the playground. You can't follow them to their classroom, in the library, in the hallway. So what it does is help forms a script for them that what are appropriate behaviors. So next one.
Okay, so the game that I had was the coping skills game. Here's the cover. So what it looks like. Okay. And some of the key skills that we're going to learn, I won't read all of them, but simply how to ask for help, how to deal with your feelings, you know, how to accept imperfection, you know, how to take care of yourself. And so it gives two different types of scenarios. So you have situation cards, and then you also have a coping skills card. Okay. And so, of course, the situation card deals with the situation. I'll just read one briefly to you. Jim hated swim lessons. He was having a hard time learning to dive. Everyone else had caught on, but Jim kept doing belly flops. He knew everyone was watching him. He wanted to quit swimming lessons. What do you think Jim is feeling? What coping skills can he use to help himself? And those two questions I love, because the first question, what do you think Jim is feeling, gives the child the opportunity to share the way that their mind works. Which is very important, because that's going to give you insight, and that's going to help you to be able to guide them to the right situation. And then the second question, what coping skill can he use to help himself? So subconsciously, the child understands that there is help out there for them. They're not by themselves, that these coping skills they can adopt, if they learn them, can help them. And I think that's really what a child needs is, does somebody care about me? Can I get help? And the question asking about how the child felt gives the parent insight into that information. That's valuable information. And we know that information helps us form relationships. That helps us become socially responsible. It helps a lot of these things, just getting that extra information.
What I loved about this game is when Micah was playing this game, we played as a family, but he was intently looking at the coping skills. To a certain degree, after we played this game, because children with autism do have a phenomenal memory. At the point, he didn't have to look at the coping skills. He knew him. And then when he read the card, he was able to think about it. And then I said, well, you know what? There may be another coping skill up there that can help as well. Your answer is correct. and he will identify 2 or 3 different coping skills. So what my goal was for him to say, well, despite the situation, if you try and it doesn't work, try another coping skill. Try another, one thing about children with autism, they can get fixed in and it didn't work, and they think about promises that were made to them or what other people have said to them, and they don't understand when contractually maybe they did something that annuls that contract with that child. So it teaches them another coping skill to be able to redo, to go ask for help, from adult, to help facilitate that conversation with the child,
and become more flexible.
To become more flexible.
Become more flexible.
That's it.
Because look, who is perfect out there? Relationships are always a give and take situation, and it's going to require a certain amount of flexibility, which sometimes that can be a challenge. But the more that we can institute that and help our children understand that, the better off we'll be. Right? What's your next game? We got to hustle.
Okay, so the next game is, we try to keep our videos from 5 to 10 minutes, so we're going to see. The next game is conscious. All of us have a conscious. It's whether or not, children with autism, how they're processing what their perception is. Because they're more about what's going on with them internally. It's hard for them to judge other people's feelings, what they may be thinking. And so this game right here does the same thing. It presents a scenario. And actually, it gives you scenarios. You may not be able to see it all. We're just going to show the board. But what I'm going to do is this. We'll
take a picture of the board.
Yeah. So they give you the scenario of education. So you're in your school. It talks about, acting up in class. It speaks about when you don't do your homework. When you're late for school, it gives you all these scenarios. It talks about drugs. That's an important thing for children not to be influenced, especially at their age. You can have that candid conversation with them, because I think this is the time. Elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way through. Also about charity, showing empathy, showing gestures towards other children. Even their teachers. It goes on more other paradigms of their life that may be facing. So what happens is that they will get an opportunity. The opportunity knocks, tells them what the scenario is, and then they do a conscious check. They either choose right or they choose another direction. And on the board, it has 2 directions that they can go into. But it allows the child to see how their decisions can lead them down a road where it causes certain consequences. So I think this is a great game for kids to be able to navigate their social environments, also along with them navigating the social relationship environments that they create as well. So. And yours?
Okay, the last game that we want to discuss is it's called the Choices game. Here.
One more thing. This one also has a section on there about bullying. So this is great. It shows them ways of escape. So
and the theme of this game is really, how to stay safe in social situations, which is important. And friends and making friends has a huge effect on that. And so the way the game works, you're navigating through the board back and forth, okay, and you have a choice card. Let me read one of the choice cards to you. Now, this is a neat little deal here.
Yeah.
It's a flip up card here, you can see. And then you have the question opens up. The question opens up, and then you have a yes or no response. So let me read you the question.
Yeah.
You see a text message on your phone that is telling bad stories about somebody else. Do you pass on the text? Very important here because everyone's texting, using the phones. So you have a yes or no scenario. So let's say yes, you pass it on. Passing on messages like this is not a good choice. Spreading stories about other people can be very unkind. What can you do when you receive a message like this that's the good part about it that I like, is that it gives you the correct response, but then it also provides another scenario. What can you do when you receive a message like this? Mm-hmm. Gives the child an opportunity to share. Once again, gives the parent a chance to interact.
Mm-hmm. And it will say go back one space. But this
That's
is
right.
about conditioning.
Right.
Because children with autism is more about rewards. So they're, if they see that this decision, is causing them to go back, okay, it's fine. It's just a game. However, when they encounter this situation, they will remember the game and they're like, I don't want to feel that way. And it's okay for children with autism to have disappointment. But then, let them see the finish line of the game, and it will cause them to be very competitive, where they want to get the next one correct, and they're going to be intensely listening to the scenarios and trying to choose the best answer. So
right. Mm-hmm. And I have to read this one because this is about our topic. Okay, so the other choice question I chose: you see a new student in school. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know many people, and you notice that she is by herself during recess. Do you say hi to her? Do you say hi to her? Yes. You are a good friend. It's hard to be new and sometimes very lonely. What can you say to this new student? What can you say to this new student? And of course, it's the right response. So you go forward 2 spaces. But once again, to ask the question, mm-hmm. Put yourself in the scenario. What would you say to make yourself friendly to a new student?
Right.
Because one of the things that we have shared with Mike all the time in regards to making friends is when you show yourself to be friendly,
yes,
you will gain friends.
Yes.
And I mean, that's a principle that's a biblical
principle
that's our
for
biblical
us.
Principle. Yes.
And it shows them how to live out his faith and
that's right.
his convictions and his belief, his value system. So the other things are, we have a few other games, but like I said, we're going to post those. The other one I think is really good for high school students. And what's the name of this game?
Relationality.
Yes. I have to say it because sometimes I'm like,
she's scared to say it, y'all.
But this is the all-time favorite game. It has a lot of content on here, and this is the realest of the realest life games ever. Yeah.
It deals with some tough topics.
It deals with some topics, but what you can do is you can remove the cards that you're not ready to address right now.
Yep.
But it will open up your eyes to some things that you need to get yourself ready for. And like, I might need to think about this sooner than later.
That's right.
Because this stuff is going on in school. But as the game board will have, they have incorporating budgets, incorporating going to school, incorporating events in life. But the whole concept is to earn these relationality points. And once you get a certain number, basically just kind of shows you how well you relate to someone. Relationship skills. So what we'll do is we'll post these and the other ones. What I recommend is you look on Amazon. You probably will find them a lot cheaper than you would at an ABA supply therapy store. There are also some books up there, social skills, picture book, which children with autism are very visual, and I'll show them pictures and give them a scenario, gives the conversation in the bubbles, and as you can see, my son was writing down what his perception was, but at the very end of each picture script, it shows them what are the appropriate behaviors and what are not the appropriate behaviors. Mm-hmm. So all this will be posted. Thank you so much for your time. This is probably the longest video. It's our second video, but
we had a lot of content.
We'll probably break this up into 2, but we had to work through it. We just and there's so much more that we have. And we just had to really pare down just for this. So, but we'll be sharing more relating to multiple subject areas, not only to our son, but also to health and wellness, mm-hmm. to dealing with parents who may have Alzheimer's disease. I'm a nurse, used to be a former educator, professional, semi-pro basketball player. So he does a lot of training,
health coach,
skill development. So we just want to give back and make it where we can run this journey together as a community. Thank you so much for all your time. I'm looking forward to posting the next video sometime soon. Have a wonderful day.
God bless.